Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you can hear me. On behalf of the NCP Academy and NCP WideNet project, I would like to open today's webinar and welcome you cordially. My name is Katarzyna Walczyk-Matuszyk. I'm representing Polish National Contact Point for Research Programs of the European Union. I'm a coordinator of the NCP WideNet project and the leader of the widening subtask within the NCP Academy. So today's webinar will be dedicated to the following topic: inclusiveness in European Research and Innovation Partnerships Program. The webinar will be delivered by speakers from the National Science Center in Poland, which is the executive agency for basic research located in Kraków. So today with us is Dr. Malwina Gębalska, Scientific Program Coordinator, member of the ERA-Learn CSA, where she leads the task aiming to support participation of EU13 countries in partnerships programs. And the next speaker is Sylwia Kostka, Program Coordinator of the Quantera ERANet in Quantum Technology. Before we go to the webinar, please have some technical remark. So during the presentation, you may ask the questions to the speakers in written. So below your screen of the presentation, you can see the chat box, which is entitled Questions to the Presenters. Please put your question there, and the question will be answered after the presentations. Today's webinar is as well recorded. Before I will give the floor to our distinguished speakers, let me just briefly introduce you the concept of webinars on widening issues within the NCP Academy. So today's webinar is first in a row. We plan to have the two next. The second one will be dedicated to the concept of widening from the FP5 to Horizon Europe, and the one should take place in July. And the third webinar should be dedicated to the new developments on synergies planned by the European Commission, which should be dedicated in autumn, most probably in September. As I mentioned at the very beginning, today's webinar is conducted in cooperation with the NCP WideNet project. So please just have a minute with the project. So NCP WideNet is a network for the widening package. It delivers expertise on widening statistics. We also organize webinars and events. What is very important, we release e-bulletin on widening issues and synergies. This is on a biannual basis, and the bulletin is distinguished by great personas. For example, we had an article by Jean-Éric Paquet. We had an article by Mr. Tachelet in the last issue, who is a director of RIA. So in the issue, you can find a lot of relevant information if you are interested in widening. I would like to invite you to visit our webpage, which is the ncpwidenet.eu. There you can find all the relevant information I have mentioned, but also you can subscribe to our e-bulletin. So now, without any additional minute, I would like to give the floor to the first speaker, so Ms. Malwina Gębalska.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. I would like to thank you very much for invitation to this webinar. I'm very happy to present my presentation about ERA-Learn survey on inclusiveness. So as Katarzyna mentioned, I'm involved in an ERA-Learn CSA action funded by the European Commission. ERA-Learn is a support platform which informs European community about public-to-public, so-called P2P partnership programs. Within ERA-Learn, I lead a task which is devoted to enhancing participation of EU13, and in a broader dimension, also less performing countries in P2P, public-to-public partnership program. Today, I would like to tell you more about ERA-Learn survey on inclusiveness. The main goal of the survey was to collect information about measures introduced by Horizon 2020 ERANet CoFund and EJP CoFund programs. So we wanted to collect information about measures which enhance participation of less performing countries, including widening countries. How do we define inclusiveness? So we define inclusiveness as an approach in building partnerships which promotes involvement of funding organizations representing less performing research communities. And also this approach implements measures supporting these research communities in calls for proposals. I would like to also briefly mention some information about ERANET CoFund and EJP CoFund programs. So these programs are supported by the European Commission, and they support research and innovation networks of funding agencies which address important research and innovation challenges. And in order to address these challenges, they use different tools within these programs. So first of all, they organize calls for proposals, calls for transnational research projects, and also they use broad range of other activities such as additional calls, developing research agendas, spreading excellence, engaging with stakeholders, developing international cooperation. But as I mentioned, one of the most important tools, especially for ERANET CoFund, are co-funded calls. And these calls are open for transnational projects which involve at least 2 independent entities from different EU member states or associated countries. But I would like to note that in most ERANET CoFund calls, the funding consortia encourage research projects from at least 3 countries, from at least 3 partners coming from at least 3 different countries. And these projects are evaluated within 2-step evaluation procedure, and proposals are assessed against 3 criteria: excellence, impact, quality, and efficiency of implementation. Coming back to the topic of my presentation, I would like to stress, and of course you're probably aware of this fact, that widening countries are much less represented in EU-funded projects than EU14 countries. And this chart tells you that widening countries appear in a smaller number of projects, so 4.5 times smaller number of projects than EU14 countries. And the same situation is observed in partnership calls. So in ERANET CoFund and EJP CoFund calls, I will refer to them as partnership calls in my presentation. So when you look at the chart, the situation is the same. Widening countries are underrepresented among funded projects. Also, when we look at number of funding organizations from widening countries involved in the networks, the number is again smaller. So the average number of programs widening countries involved in is 28, whereas for EU14 this number is 2 times bigger, it's 57. When you look at the chart, Poland, Portugal, and Romania are most active as members of funding of partnership programs. The survey, we decided to implement the survey to address this challenge, the challenge of widening countries being less represented in funded projects. The survey was open from June to September 2019. It was sent to 66 program coordinators. So at that time, we had 66 ERANET CoFund and EJP programs running. And our survey was, so 41 respondents answered to our survey. And I like to mention that out of these 66 program coordinators, there are only 2 coordinators from widening countries. These are Poland and Portugal. Our survey included closed and open questions. We asked the respondents, so the program coordinators, in what roles widening countries appear in the program. So according to responses we got, we learned that widening countries are not very actively involved in developing, planning, and building partnership programs. So they usually appear in secondary roles. And you can see that, again, Poland, Romania, Portugal, but also Slovenia are most active in building new networks and implementing new partnership programs. In our survey, we included a list of widening measures that were abstracted from different sources. So first of all, I did a desk research and analyzed individual ERANET co-fund calls and consortium agreements, and also conducted short interviews with some ERANET co-fund coordinators. I analyzed reports on ERANET co-fund programs, newsletters, and information published on websites. And this helped me fund a list of options for widening actions already implemented in some programs. And I also would like to note that there isn't a systematic approach towards widening in partnership programs in Horizon 2020. So all these measures that were already implemented by certain programs, they're bottom-up measures. So they're not included in any documents provided by the Commission. So these are initiatives of individual programs. So these measures were introduced on different program cycles. So we can differentiate 4 cycles, so 4 program phases. Constitution of the program, when the program is being built and planned. Then call preparation. I mentioned that co-funded call is a very important element in ERANET co-fund. So call preparation includes some actions that serve widening. Call promotion, so disseminating information about the planned call, and also widening actions were included in the phase devoted to evaluation and proposal selection. So let's have a look at those different phases and let's see what widening measures were introduced. So when we look at the constitution of the program, so 20 in brackets, you can see the number of programs that use the measure I described. So first of all, 21 respondents out of 41, so a half of them, they say that it's important for them to ensure participation and representation of countries, of widening countries in their network. So they actively try to involve widening countries in the network. So first of all, they contact them, they write official letters, they try to contact the agencies in those countries also via research communities. So this option, this measure is very important for many program coordinators. Also some coordinators, so also a big number of coordinators, they say that it's important to offer widening countries work package or task leader positions. So 18 out of 41 decide to offer these positions to widening countries. They feel it's important. Also, a smaller number of program coordinators decided that they want to include special additional tasks within their programs devoted to widening countries. And these tasks may include knowledge exchange activities, organizing events in widening countries, but also engaging with scientific communities in those countries. So this is the constitution of the program phase, a very important phase because the partnership is being built in this phase. Then we have call preparation phase. As I mentioned, calls for proposals are very important components of ERANET co-funds and also EJP programs. So it's of course, as I mentioned, it's observed that widening countries are underrepresented in submitted application, also in full proposals, and then on the ranking list. That's why some programs decide that in the call text, they should encourage research consortia submitting proposals to include partners from widening countries in their project. So usually a special paragraph or a special sentence is included in the call text saying, we encourage research consortia to pay special attention to representation of partners from widening countries in projects. And partners do, submitting consortia, they do acknowledge this option, so they use this option. In some programs, there is a limit on number of partners per one project. So we have this minimum of 3 usually partners per one project, but some consortia decide to have a limit on number of partners involved in one project. It's usually 6, but if widening countries are involved, they say the limit can be 7. So if you plan to include a widening country in your project, you can have 7 partners to 1 partner more. And 13 funding consortia decided to use this option in their call text. Also, a very interesting option, which is quite popular already, is to encourage partners who are qualified to the full proposal stage to consider involving partners from widening countries on the full proposal stage. So the project is invited to the second stage of evaluation, but still the submitting consortium can include a partner from a widening country. And this option is actually used, and some projects who do use this option then receive funding. Of course, this addition of a partner from widening countries on the full proposal stage must be justified and must be important for the project goal and for the excellence of the project. And finally, we have an option of using structural funds. So widening countries have this pot of funding, and they can use structural funds. But in Horizon 2020, they were eligible to use these funds only in additional calls because it's not eligible to match structural funds with EU co-funding. But it may be possible in Horizon Europe. It's now being discussed. Now let's move to the call promotion phase. So among most popular widening options in this phase is providing online partnering tool for potential applicants. So this tool was regarded as a difficult one to assess. Some networks, some partnership programs actually didn't assess this tool, but they say it's used. People use it. Researchers use this option, and it can be an option to for widening countries to find partners. On the other hand, matchmaking events were not that popular, and brokerage events, probably because of the limited impact of this measure. Physical events are expensive, and it translates into smaller number of participants because it's not available to all potential applicants. However, I think especially now also it may be an idea to organize special brokerage webinars or matchmaking webinars online, and it will be then open to more applicants. And finally, many coordinators emphasize that it's very important to reach the research communities in less performing countries and organize workshops for research communities and organize proposal checks and some workshop where they can learn more about how to prepare a successful application. Now let's see what measures we have on the call evaluation phase. So first of all, 19 respondents say that they do involve experts and reviewers from less performing countries in proposal evaluation process. But it must be stressed that this option is not seen by the respondents as a widening option. They see this measure as an important tool for maintaining and ensuring geographical balance and balance of expertise among experts and reviewers. So network coordinators and program coordinators, they say it's important to involve experts from widening countries, but it's important not as a widening measure. Then also quite a popular option, which was chosen by respondents, is to encourage budget flexibility. So it's important to encourage partners to enlarge their budget if necessary. It's also important not to set too many limitations on distribution of top-up funding, because top-up funding is usually distributed based on gap filling criteria and also fair distribution of top-up. But it's important to be flexible about these rules because the main goal should be to fund as many projects as possible and to efficiently use the EU top-up. Within the space, we have also two less popular measures. First one is a wildcard rule. So this option is used between pre-proposal and full proposal stage. The review panel assessing proposals on the full proposal stage decides to recommend a certain pool of proposals to the second stage. But usually partners, funding partners have to limit the number of applications sent to the second stage because the budget is limited. Then they usually decide that applications worth no more than 3 times a valuable budget can be sent to the second stage, and they draw a cutoff line. Under these cutoff lines, so above, sometimes it happens that above the cutoff line, not every country has its project. That's why in some programs, as you see in 3 programs, it has been decided that programs that were under the cutoff line, but still high ranked and positively assessed by the evaluators, can be still sent to the second stage, so that each country has a chance to fund to consider these projects in the second stage. Then we have a also very interesting option, post-evaluation widening. So it means that when we have already a final ranking list of projects, countries not represented on the ranking list can still join funded consortia. So the list of funded consortia is available to funding agencies from widening countries, and they can disseminate information about these projects among their research communities. And then if funded consortia decide that they want to add additional partner from a widening country, then national funding organization can fund this additional partner. But of course, it must be justified, and it must be it's up to funded consortia if they want to involve additional partner at this stage. And finally, I would like to also tell you more about a selection phase. And there is one measure which can serve underrepresented countries, less performing countries, including widening countries. So if we already have the final ranking list of projects recommended for funding, there are usually some projects, 2, 3, or sometimes more, that are scored ex aequo. So they have the same number of points. So it can be some programs decide to give priority to some projects that are ranked ex aequo. As you see, seven programs decided to use this option. So this option, say, for example, if we have 2 projects with the same scores, exactly the same points, but in one of them we have a widening countries, let's fund this project. Or if we have 2 ex aequo proposals, but one of them is not represented on the ranking list yet, let's give funding to this proposal. So I would like to emphasize that this is a selection criterion. It's a selection phase, not an evaluation phase. So we choose between projects recommended for funding in equally scored here. We also asked survey respondents about if they see ERANET co-fund and EJP co-fund programs as programs that can support widening. If there are any rules already in these tools, in these funding tools, that can help widening. And many respondents, they did say that co-fund mechanism can be seen as supporting widening because top-up funding support given by the EU help fund more projects, which means more projects with widening countries. Also, unit cost available from the European Commission can help managing the whole program and can help introduce additional activities which serve also widening countries. And also, which is more important, these programs help support mutual learning across ERA, and they ensure equal participation across all countries. So all countries can vote, they can shape the program, they can shape the topic of the calls. That's why it serves all countries included in the program. However, 7 program coordinators say they do not see any widening mechanisms in ERANET or EJP co-fund programs. I already presented in my presentation some measures that can help widening, but the main question is if these actions bring impact, if we can see results, if we can see effects of those actions. And respondents say, yes, we do. So we can see when we analyze the history of our program that these actions bring results. So we get more applications from widening countries. We get more full proposals with widening countries. And finally, we also get more funded projects involving widening countries. And also, on the other level, we have more involved research funding organizations from widening countries. And it translates into better call dissemination. When we look at highlights, at responses that we received in highlight sections, the program coordinators say, please do involve widening countries in the early stages of program implementation. That is very important. But it's also very important to reach out to scientific communities because there are they are our clients, they are end users, so it's important to reach out to them. But also, which I found a very important message, is that a set of widening actions should be used. A systematic approach is recommended. It's not easy. It's rather difficult to assess an impact of a single measure, and it's important to use a set of widening actions. This was emphasized by the coordinators. Also, as I already mentioned, EU top-up has been seen as an important tool for supporting widening countries, and also some actions were regarded as those with limited impact or regarded as those difficult to assess. These were partnering tools and matchmaking events. We also asked the respondents what is their approach towards future. So 70% of all program coordinators say that they do want to introduce pro-inclusiveness measures in future programs. And the measures that they indicated as those they want to implement actually mirror those already implemented by the programs. So they want to introduce more or less the same measures that they already introduced. So they say these measures bring impact, they're important, and they should be used in next program. And to sum up my presentation, I want to give a message on the eve of Horizon Europe. So Horizon Europe already implements an important concept of openness and transparency, which is seen as an important criterion, important category in future partnerships. So when we analyze the widening measures that I presented, we can see that these measures can be used to address the openness and transparency criterion because it actually helps also less performing countries. In many programs, pro-inclusiveness measures and measures which were originally and first targeted at widening countries were then used for countries less performing in a certain program. So there can be EU 14 countries which are underrepresented in certain calls for certain topics or certain programs, and then they can also benefit from pro-widening actions. And this leads us to the most important goal of the European Union's framework programs, that real excellence can be achieved only thanks to diversity of expertise in funded research. So it's important to support less performing countries so that they can also join projects, and that the expertise, so the diversity of expertise and diversity of geographical balance can be achieved in research consortia. Thank you very much for your attention, and if you have any questions, please write in the chat window. And I would like to now give the floor to my colleague Sylvia from NCM. Turn on your microphone.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me now. My name is Sylvia Kostka. I work at the National Science Center as a Quantera ERANET co-fund program coordinator. Thank you very much for invitation. So let me start with a brief presentation. What is Quantera? So Quantera is one of the widest ERANETs. It was established in 2016, and right now it is represented by 32 partners from 27 countries, and 1/3 are coming from widening countries. At the end of June, we plan to submit the Quantera 2 proposal, so the continuation of this program, and I'm happy to tell you that even 2 or 3 more organizations from widening countries will join our network. So let me first explain why Quantera is so special when it comes to inclusiveness. As you have seen in the data presented by Malvina, the participation and engagement of organizations from widening countries in P2P programs like ERANET is poor. But when it comes to the number of coordinations, so of the ERANETs coordinated by organizations coming from widening countries, is even worse. So there are 68 active ERANET co-funds in Horizon 2020, and out of which only 2 are coordinated by organizations coming from widening countries. You can see them here. So one is Portuguese Aramin, and the other one is Quantera. If you are interested in a detailed statistics, you can check the source on the ERA-Learn webpage and you see the exact data for your countries and organizations. What are the reasons why widening countries do not join ERA-Net? So this is the report, the policy brief, also from the ERA-Learn coming on inclusiveness, and you can see the rationale behind. So first would be the lack of national funding, human resources, or experience with ERA-Net. Then administrative burden and issues deriving from national legislations not being adapted for transnational cooperation. Also, very important, missing strategies regarding public-public partnerships involvement and resulting lack of a systematic national approach toward this kind of activities. And which happens very often in widening countries, also the lack or the unclear national strategies, priorities, and then criteria for participation. Okay, so when it comes to Quantera, it was very important for us since the very beginning to promote inclusiveness and widening approach, and also obviously to reach the more balanced European research area, especially that in quantum technologies domain. It's a highly competitive domain, so therefore it is very important for us to achieve the balanced era when it comes to the competition with other worldwide regions. So the results: widening countries participate in about 70% of Quantera funded projects. How we reached that? So in 2 calls, 2017 and 2019, we implemented widening measures, some of them already presented by Malvina, and I will go into the details soon. But you can see that we have funded so far nearly 200 research teams from 25 countries. So that's the real impact of our work. What is crucial, I would say, is the fact to keep an eye on widening at each level of the project cycle, especially at the programming level. So you must, as a coordinator, ensure that at all levels of the project cycles, widening is an important topic. So at the programming, when you think about creation of the new program, when you know that you are going to create a new network, you have to make sure to invite partners from widening countries. So, so if you really want to have the results and an impact, that's obvious that you have to have the partners and the organizations coming from widening countries first. Then formulation. So at the when you write the proposal, when you prepare the description of action, include widening approach in a work plan. For example, in additional activities. This is a perfect place for additional activities. During the implementation of the program, so during the implementation of the calls, make sure you discuss, you agree on the rules, and you follow that rules on widening and carry out activities that promote inclusiveness. Then monitoring, obviously, it's about result tracking and spreading results. And evaluation, it's not really evaluation, because what we do is obviously we look for better practices, and we really hope that there are partners that we can learn from. So let's start with programming. So while creating new projects, make sure you involve partners from widening countries. And these are tips that might be useful. So first of all, you can check the list at the ERA-Learn webpage by country and find the organizations from widening countries that are already engaged in P2P networks. It's always easier to contact somebody who is already involved in this type of funding mechanism. Then you can also send the official invitation letters to funding agencies or ministries. It works. So if there is an official invitation, there must be an answer. Lobby, this is also important. So you can mobilize the research community and ask them for support. So ask them, the researchers coming from this particular country you would like to see in your network, to send the letters, to call the agencies, to explain how the importance of the fact of joining the network. So this is also important. This is like a bottom-up activity, and obviously networking. So contacting coordinators of other networks to set up connections. We do that, and my colleagues from Maya from Flagera and Mathieu from Chistera, from the other arenas, they do also. We also share contacts among ourselves and try to look for some new actions and activities that might be helpful. So in the formulation, as I mentioned before, in the work plan, make sure there is an activity dedicated to the widening, and also in the implementation. So this part has been presented by Malvina in details, but let's remind that widening could be an encouragement criterion. So this should be mentioned in the call announcement. So the researchers, while reading the document, they already know that they should look for partners to their consortia coming also from widening countries. So they should be encouraged to include partners from widening countries. And the other one, the widening as a selection criterion. So this is not the evaluation procedure. Evaluation procedure is always based on a European Commission defined evaluation criteria: scientific excellence, impact, quality, and efficiency of implementation, and always conducted by independent scientific experts. Once we have the results of the evaluation panel and the opinion and the ranking list, then we can provide this selection criterion, which could be an additional selection criterion. Obviously, it's not only about widening; it's also about the gender balance or the stage of research. So it can be promoted on a different level. But please do understand that it only excellence first, and it only works without compromising on excellence. So let me read it. In case of ex aequo ranked projects, additional selection criteria could apply. For example, gender balance, widening a research stage, or the priority of projects involving partners from the widening country. And obviously, this is without compromising on excellence. We implemented both of these measures, and they proved to be successful. What is also important, so the general recommendations would be like these measures should be open not only dedicated only for widening countries. It is important to explain to partners that it works for all of us because of the ERANET co-fund mechanism. As you know, we should spend the money that we are getting from the European Commission. So this is very important also to spend the budget. And the risk of co-fund budget underspending is obviously a risk for all partners. So actually these widening measures we are presenting here works for all partners. It is also very important to keep it agreed and official. So first of all, explain and discuss the idea with partners, why we really want to have more balanced ERA and why this is good for us all. Then agree on the rules, write it down and in the documentation, so in the call announcement, in the procedures of the call. So make it official so everybody would be aware of the fact that widening partners could be and should be the partners within the research consortium. Also, sharing best practices is important. So last week there was a Quantera meeting on widening. I know that Flagera is also very much involved as well in this topic. So it is very important for us among the coordinators and among the networks to share the best practices. Okay, so thank you very much. That's all from Quantera. And if you have any questions, I'm ready to answer, I hope.
Thank you very much, Sylvia and Malvina, for the great presentations. So now I would like to encourage our participants to raise questions. And as I mentioned, you have the possibility to raise the questions in written. You can see now a big window on the left when you can write the questions. So while waiting for the questions for the participants, I will use the opportunity and take the floor first to ask you the questions. I have a question to Sylvia, because it's very interesting what the Quantera did. So what arguments were the most relevant for the consortium to so strongly commit to widening approach in Quantera, which is related to the quantum research?
Well, this is a very good question. So I would say that the domain is very special. So as I said, in quantum technology is a highly competitive field, and you feel that Europe must really cooperate and work together towards the common results. So this would be the first important reason, but also we discussed a lot within the consortium. It wasn't always clear, but once we discussed all proposals in details and we noted down, then it was easier, because, as I said before, it works for all of us. So ERANET co-fund mechanism works like that well, the top-up is distributed among the partners, obviously, but as a common part of the national budgets as well. So if we want to really spend the full top-up, we need to have national budgets. So the more we spend from our national budgets, the more partners participate, the better for us all. Also, there's another thing. I think that this is also a matter of the domain of quantum technologies, is the fact that this is not a huge research community. So the community know each other very well. So there is a very strong networking among countries. And thanks to that, they are very much aware of the fact that the more countries are engaged, the better for the community itself.
Yes, thank you very much indeed. Very important remark that it's for the sake and for the good of and for the advantages of everyone. So now I have also one question to Malvina. Malvina, you did this analysis within the ERA Learn, and how do you assess the possibilities for widening countries in Horizon Europe in partnerships, taking into account lessons learned from partnerships in Horizon 2020? Do you think it will be possible for the partnerships to apply more and more of these measures?
Thank you for this question. I think it's important, especially to inform other networks about a possibility and success, actually, of widening measures that were already implemented. Because not all networks that responded to the survey not everyone uses every single measure that was mentioned in the survey. So I think it's very important to inform the communities, the coordinators of all programs about the results of the survey. And we are going to publish the report, a detailed report about the survey soon, probably next week or the week after the next week. So I think it's important to show this wide range of possible activities to all programs, to see if they can use them and tell them that the impact is actually measured and it's tangible. So we have more projects with widening countries, and you look at the history of the ERANET that use those actions. So I think it's very important to inform first about the possibility of using these actions, and then probably also try to address openness and transparency question, which is very important in Horizon Europe and already defined. I think it's important to see these widening measures as a tool to achieve openness and transparency in Horizon Europe.
Promise to widely share the report when it will be published. Okay, so now I would like to okay, so now I would like to give you the possibility to reply to the questions raised by the public. Please do.
So I think the first question was about Wildcard. So the measure I mentioned in my presentation. So as I mentioned, this tool is used between pre-proposal and full proposal stage. So after the ranking list of pre-proposals recommended for the second stage is available after the peer review panel meeting, then funding organizations decide which proposals will be sent to the second stage. And there's always a problem of limited budget. So funding organizations must further limit the number of projects sent to the second stage. So usually they say that projects worth no more than 3 times available budget of the whole call can be sent to the second stage. So they set a cutoff line, and so projects above this cutoff line are sent to the second stage. But there's under this cutoff line, there are also high-ranked proposals positively assessed by the review panel, which can still be sent, but to budget limits, they cannot be sent to the second stage. So some consortia decided we want every country to have at least one project sent to the second stage. That's why we will take one project per country which does not have which is not represented above the cutoff line to the second stage. And so this project is given so-called wildcard. So it's high ranked, it's positively assessed, but it's under the cutoff line. But we give this project a chance so that it's considered in the second stage. So this is the wildcard rule. And the second question was about structural funds. So as far as I know, structural funds were used as a national allocation budget in additional calls in ERANET co-funds. But from what I hear, and maybe Katarzyna will know better, but structural funds will they will be eligible to match structural funds with EU co-funding in Horizon Europe. It's being discussed, and actually ERA-Learn has a special group which works on structural funds in Horizon Europe. So I will be happy to send you a link to a report prepared by ERANET regarding the structural funds in Horizon Europe and in partnership programs. So I'm happy to share this report with you. Thank you. And now question to Sylvia.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can see the question, is it still feasible to join at this stage? Question coming from Ms. Olga Merovskaya. So yes, it is still possible to join Quantera at this stage. As I said, at the end of the month, we are going to submit Quantera 2 proposal, and we still can wait and for partners, but obviously it depends very much on the country and on the internal procedures. Okay, and the second question, what is the current coverage of widening countries in Quantera? So in a Quantera, one project we have 27 countries and 11 of are representing widening countries, whereas in the Quantera 2, the ratio will be even higher for widening countries because there are 2 more organizations from widening countries joining the proposal. Okay, and so the next question is, I believe, is to Malvina from Danny. Yeah.
That some of these measures could be also implemented in Horizon Europe projects in the future. So we're also very much in favor of this. And now the question to me, what are the incentives for participants from widening countries to participate in ERANET? Does the widening country support or make it difficult? I think Sylvia actually addressed this issue, that some widening countries do not have clear priorities when it comes to choosing partnership programs, but I think there are many incentives for widening countries. So an ERANET co-fund tool can be seen as a tool that helps that prepares.
Oh, I can't hear you.
I think we have a small technical issue because the view stopped.
Researchers from widening countries to join consortia in other EU-funded programs, because ERANET co-fund uses a combination of national calls and European calls. So I think it's a stepping stone for research consortia from widening countries, for researchers from widening countries,
from Danny
to ask for funds.
Do you think that in Quantera, the fact that Poland is the coordinator helps to add participants from widening countries?
I think now it's the question to you.
Yes, I think that it might be helpful at some point because we are very much aware of the problems of the widening countries and EU 13. So as I said at the very beginning, when we were preparing the program, the initiative, widening was one of the topics we involved and we've discussed at the very beginning. So this is what is helpful, that we are very much aware of the problems and of the lack of participation, lack of engagement, lack of coordination from the organizations from widening countries. So yeah, but building trust is always a big issue. So I think that it's always a matter of the organizations and a good preparation rather than a particular country.
We have another question. Can you give examples of partnership which use wildcard measure for inclusiveness? So one of the
I can see these are all questions, I believe, from the participants. All have been covered by our speakers. Thank you very much. You also put some questions related to us, to the organizers. So as I mentioned at the beginning, the webinar was recorded and the recording will be available to you. If our speakers agree, we also will deliver the presentations to the participants of the webinar, so that you will have the opportunity to read it as well. The material and the recording will be available as soon as possible. We will inform you about this, of course, via email. And I believe our webinar has come to an end. Once again, thank you very much to the speakers, to Malwina Gębalska and Sylwia Kocka from the National Science Center. Thank you to the Polish NCP team who organized the meeting, especially to Wojciech Adamiak. who was also in touch with the participants. And should you have any further questions related to the widening issues, please contact us. And using the opportunity, I would like to invite you to our next webinars related to widening topic, which will take place soon. You will be informed via the ENCP Academy. Thank you very much, and I wish you a nice and pleasant afternoon. Goodbye.